Hi Miguel, how are you?
I'm all right.
My name's Kensington and I'll be the therapist working with you. I just wanted to get started by reminding you that everything you say in here is confidential. Everything between us stays between us, and this is a safe place unless you are at risk to hurt yourself or others. In that case, I would have to share about the information.
Right.
So just to get started, I wanted to ask first, is it okay if I record our session just for future use? There's some assignments that we might use later on with the session. And then is it okay if I take notes as well?
Yeah,
okay, awesome. Well, before we get started, I just wanted to say thank you for coming in. I know this might be difficult to talk about things that you've been through, but if you could just share a little bit about what has taken place recently in your life.
Yeah, it's really hard to talk about. Basically, a couple weeks ago, I was in a car. I was driving home. It was really late at night. Next thing I knew, another car slammed into me. And then before I knew it, I was pulling myself out. I mean, I didn't get hurt, but it's really hard to be in a car now.
Yeah, that sounds very, very terrifying, and I'm really glad that you're able to open up a little bit because I know that that's difficult. But you are safe here in this space, and nothing's going to hurt you and nothing's going to harm you. So as we talk about things that might be difficult to bring up, just remember that you are safe here. So as a result of like what you went through, how have you been feeling?
I've been struggling with sleep. I used to sleep really well. My wife always would be like, "Oh, you sleep like a baby. It's really hard to get you up." I can't sleep. I just keep thinking about the wreck and other car slamming into me and feeling so helpless. And I don't drive anymore. I don't get in a car. I don't like being in a car. I have not driven since the accident, and even just sitting as a passenger is really hard.
Yeah. So this first part of our session is called narration.
Okay.
I just want to hear things that you've been through. I want you to talk about that traumatic experience. And like I said, it's going to be difficult at first, but as we talk about it more, it's going to get easier. So I'm working with you on prolonged exposure. So exposure is when we just continue to talk about that trauma and revisit that trauma over and over and over until it gets a lot less scary to deal with. So eventually it just won't be as hard to talk about. And so thank you again for being open for right now. So you said that you're really struggling with driving, being in a car in general. So who brought you in here today?
My wife did.
Okay. And would you say that she's been a big support system for you?
Yeah, she's super supportive. Like, she was the one who made me come in here today, but like, she's almost pushy about it. Like, I don't want to talk about it. I don't know why she doesn't get that.
Yeah, I can understand that. It's definitely really good that she is supporting you, but we got to work through things on your pace and on your comfortability. Imaginal exposure is a type of therapy under the prolonged exposure that we're going to work through, and that's like detailing the trauma. So as we go through our sessions, I'm going to have you describe different things that you experienced. I know so far we've talked about seeing that bright light and then kind of just being unsure of what took place, and then you pulled yourself out of the car. So we're going to talk about all the details. Eventually it'll start to reduce that fear. And then also, I just kind of wanted to go through how our sessions are going to work. This is called psychoeducation, and it's basically just so that you're on the same page as me. So our first session is kind of working through some of that, detailing the trauma. And then we're going to go into the next session. We're going to work on another type of exposure called in vivo, which is practicing that exposure. And then after that, we're going to work on just continuously recalling the event, working on that imaginal exposure. So as we continue forward, I just want you to know that your symptoms that you've been experiencing are common. So you are not alone in that. I see a lot of patients that come in and they've been through something traumatic, and it's really hard to move forward because, like you said, I'm so thankful that you are safe and that you didn't have any injuries, but that still makes it challenging to get in a car and, you know, do those things that were easy before and now just kind of feel debilitating. So one of the things, now that you kind of know like the rationale for the treatment, like we're going to work on these things and then move forward. One of the things is I do want to assign you some homework. So like I stated before, I am recording our session. And so as a part of the exposure, you're going to continue to talk about things, but then I'm also going to ask you to watch the video from today and listen to that again. And so just different types of exposing yourself. So listening to it in here, listening to it at home, kind of working on things both in and out of sessions. And then along with that is I want to encourage you to start exposing yourself to that fear of getting in a car. So it sounds like you're already doing that with baby steps.
For the places I have to go, yeah.
So today you came in, which is amazing because you kind of faced that fear. But do you have a job?
Yeah, I do, and my boss has been really on my tail about this whole thing because it's been keeping me from work. But I mean, my wife drives me to work. She doesn't work. She stays at home.
Okay.
Kind of was a homemaker for a while, and so she drives me there. But anytime she's slamming on the brakes or there's a bright headlight, I start reimagining it like it's happening all over again. And it's gotten to the point now that I don't scream anymore, but I know that doesn't make a safe condition for my wife driving if I'm screaming like it's happening, and it's a lot. It makes me anxious.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, those feelings that you're having, they're so valid, and I also want you to know you're not alone in that. So it sounds like I said, you're taking that baby step to getting in a car, but it sounds like driving from one location to the next has still been really hard.
Yeah.
And so I was going to encourage you to start practicing for part of our homework, to maybe like drive in a space that you feel safe.
You want me to drive?
Well, we're going to start with being a passenger, okay? So yeah, I didn't want to scare you there. We're going to start small as being a passenger, riding with your wife, and then maybe if there's an area in town that makes you feel comfortable, for instance, the parking lot where no one else is, or maybe on some side streets where you just know that the traffic isn't going to be bad.
Yeah.
So instead of just getting in the car when you have to go somewhere, I want to encourage you to practice those things even when you don't have to be somewhere, just to like, yeah. Okay. So maybe once a day, even if you have no plans to go out, maybe your wife and you can go somewhere where you feel safe and you can feel like comfortable being the passenger.
Right.
And then later, as the weeks come, we'll work our way up to some other types of in vivo exposure, practicing those things that have been fearful since the event took place. Do you have any questions so far?
I don't think so. I think the baby steps are going to be good because that's kind of how I got here today, how I was able to sit in the car with my wife.
Yeah, absolutely. And how do you feel about doing some of these activities at home?
I mean, I'm going to be honest with you, I'm a little scared.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this has really made my anxiety so high, and I'm so hyper alert of everything. But I mean, I have to get over it eventually, right? Like I have to face those fears. So I think it'll be good. It's going to be tough. Yeah.
Well, just know with exposure therapy, these first couple weeks, your anxiety might feel heightened. It might increase, but that's not going to last forever. So that anxiety is going to go up a little bit when I'm introducing these different exposures, because talking about something that was really traumatic over and over again is going to feel like a lot. Yeah. But that's the goal. And this type of therapy is perfect for your situation, because something that used to not feel hard is now very, very hard. And so we want to get back to where we were before. Right. So these anxiety feelings that you're having, don't be alarmed if they get a little bit more as these weeks progress, but then they'll diminish again, because eventually talking about what you went through won't feel so difficult. Okay? So yeah, I just wanted to recap that I'm going to assign you that homework to listen to the recording, and then I'll touch base with you next week, but I want to know how riding in the car with your wife throughout the day, maybe in parking lots or in small neighborhoods, how that went. And then we'll work more on just going through the details of the traumatic experience and exposing you to those things.
All right.
Okay, well, thank you so much for coming in today.
Thank you.
And I can't wait to see you again next week as we move forward.